So I'd like to kick off with an acknowledgement of country, and I'd like to acknowledge that I'm joining today from Wurundjeri Woiwurrung land. They're the traditional owners of the land that I live and work on, and I'm joining from today. And I want to acknowledge as well that everywhere around this continent, wherever we're joining from, we're all on unceded Aboriginal land. And I'd like to thank and acknowledge the elders of all First Nations around this continent for looking after country since the Dreamtime. And just in case this is your first time here, we are Climate Emergency Australia. We're a network of Australian councils that have declared a climate emergency, and I'll tell you more later about how you can connect with us and also some other upcoming events we've got on that you might be interested in. But for now, I'm going to start introducing Sarah and Lily. So Sarah Hussein is going to be talking to us. She's the Community Outreach Officer from Sustainable Communities at Merri-bek City Council. And I'll tell you a little bit more about what she's going to speak about in a sec. We'll also have Lily Dempster, who's the founder and CEO of One Small Step, joining us as well. So coming at us from two quite different perspectives. So Sarah's going to tell us about a hyperlocal place-based community outreach project with Merri-bek's multicultural communities in Fawkner. And then Lily's going to talk about One Small Step. She's the creator, founder and CEO of One Small Step, and she's going to talk about how councils can use the power of apps to engage their communities in sustainable behaviours and measurable climate actions. And Lily is actually going to be joining us from her home in Budapest, so she's going to be arriving a little bit later because it's quite early in the morning for her. And so after Sarah's finished, we'll have a little bit of Q&A just with Sarah first, and then we'll hand over to Lily. So I think we've had most people arrive who are going to be with us live. So just as I say that, somebody else arrives. So I'm going to hand over now to Sarah. And Sarah, just let me know whenever you want me to change slides.
Thank you so much, Sally, and hi, everyone. Thank you for coming in today. So just like Sally said, I'm the Community Outreach Officer at Merri-bek City Council, and I work with the Sustainable Communities team with Donna Duckman. Can I have the next slide, please, Sally? Thank you. So the purpose of this place-based outreach is we want to encourage long-term behavior change around sustainability and climate. And our team aims to build community capacity so people of migrant backgrounds have the knowledge and confidence to adapt and become resilient to climate impacts. According to research, and it's also evidence-based, that this model works best when you target long-term behavior change. Our team wanted to test a dialogue model of work in Merri-bek North instead of having the usual deficit model of information sharing. As you might know, multicultural communities experience a lot of barriers accessing council's information, usually through the usual, communication channels, and they prefer to have a face-to-face conversation on issues that they have interests or they want to know more about. You might think that, yes, language is a barrier for multicultural communities to accessing information, but I can assure you that in my experience, language, yes, it is a barrier, but when it comes to sustainability and conversations around climate and environment and sustainability, generally speaking, translations do not solve this problem. So I want you to quickly imagine this kind of two model of work in your head. So, for example, we have some information on the energy upgrades that council have, the subsidies that Merri-bek has for that space. And we share this information through the first model, which is just through, the usual social media posts, let's say Facebook page. And we share that kind of information for communities in their own languages, so the information is translated. And you don't really know what happens when people access this kind of information. So they usually browse through their phone. They just go through, their news feed. This post comes up. It's in their own language, which is good. They read the information. But how do you know that they actually understand the information? How do you know what happens next? Do they actually engage with the post? Do they take any action after reading the post? You don't know that. While the other model that we've been testing at Merri-bek is that you want to have someone who understands the community, to be there on the ground, to have that kind of hands-on engagement with the community. So they are there, they ask questions and you answer the questions, they have feedback and you listen to the feedback. So that kind of hands-on engagement is absolutely pivotal in changing mindsets and cultural habits. We've tested it at Merri-bek and we find it very successful. Can I have the next slide, please, Sally? Thank you. So you might ask, why is this work place-based? What's the significance of having place-based engagement? So Fawkner is a very unique suburb. Fawkner is where we mainly engage with the community in the north. We have a very special focus on the Fawkner community, and it's a very, very unique suburb, and it's very rich in multiculturalism. According to statistics, Fawkner is one of the most disadvantaged suburbs in Merri-bek, with its residents being more on the lower side of socioeconomic or higher education level index point. Council also, Merri-bek, has existing projects in Fawkner, and we kind of wanted to build on that. So you leverage the local knowledge where people understand their own challenges and look for local resources and local solutions to solve them. That's the beauty of place-based engagement. Fawkner also has the highest risk to heat vulnerability according to statistics in Merri-bek, and it's a priority area for climate resilience, greening, and cooling initiatives. Can I have the next slide, please, Sally? Thank you. So this is a brief information on the kind of migrant communities that we've been engaging with. And we've collected this kind of information through demographic questions in the surveys that we usually conduct with our participants. So as you can see, we have a whole range of different cultural backgrounds there. And it's also important to mention that we don't only engage with first generation migrants, but also second generation or maybe even third generation. So we engage with a different range of age groups as well. Next one, please. In one of the surveys, we wanted to capture what was the main reason or some of the main reasons why migrant communities might find it difficult to access sustainable living. And as you can see here, one of the most responses we received was it's because of lack of information. So a lot of people might think that migrant communities don't care about sustainability or that maybe sustainability is not an area of priority for them. I can assure you from my engagement that it absolutely is, and they are actually quite sustainable. They might just lack the information, of details that they're actually what they do at home every day is considered sustainable. So that definitely shows you the need that this kind of work is needed in the community to be able to deliver community education or share information, raise awareness of what's available at council. It's much needed in migrant communities. So my work is across the whole team at the Sustainable Communities team at Council. So I provide community education and sharing information on the waste. We have the zero waste section of the team. And through that, I get to share information on, the 4 bins at home, recycle right. We also have some subsidies in the zero waste area, like the cloth nappy subsidies, compost at home subsidy, and also reusable period product subsidies. I also work with the Zero Carbon Merri-bek team with Donna, in which I share information on the energy upgrades and the subsidies that council have at that space. I also share information on active transport, and we have a wonderful program that I've been promoting when visiting multicultural community groups, like the Wheel Sisters. Maybe some of you have heard of it. It's a great program in which women from migrant backgrounds, specifically Muslim women, get to learn how to ride a bike for the first time, or if they already ride bikes, they can join some social rides with other women. It's a really great program. It gives them agency, and it empowers them to feel more independent, moving around in their local area. I also work on climate resilience. And I've been hosting with the team some heat health workshops, and this is where we provide information specifically for seniors and families with babies, young children or babies. And these are the cohorts that are definitely more impacted by climate change, like heat waves. Can I have the next one? Yes, thank you. So that's a brief description of the kind of engagement that we've done in the past 12 months. So we've connected with 12 multicultural community groups, and I'm sure in every local government area, there are some multicultural groups that, they're registered, they already meet up regularly. So we've been visiting 12 of these so far. And we've been delivering community education on sustainability, generally speaking, across the sections that I've just mentioned. We've hosted 7 different events or workshops on climate knowledge and sustainability. And to my own surprise, we've been very successful in collecting feedback. So I usually conduct pre and post engagement surveys, and we've received so many good surveys there, from which I was able to collect the data that we will just display soon. And the most amazing thing is all of the groups that we've been visiting, all of them 100% always ask us to come back. Some of them even ask us to keep in touch like regularly. Some of them say, please visit us quarterly. We need the updated information on what you have at council. Some of them even ask that they invite us to their AGMs or whatever events they have. Some of them say, please, we have some dancing sessions, join us. And this is really absolutely great because it shows that this kind of engagement, it kind of hits the goal there, which is building connections and relationships with community groups. Next, please, Sally. Thank you. So these are some of the activities that we've run in some details. So we've hosted 2 zero waste workshops, food waste workshops. One of them was last year and the other one was earlier this year. And this is one of people's favorites. Like people really enjoy the vibes. It's usually very friendly, very informal. I usually collaborate with a community cook, and they don't have to be professional at all. The community cook is usually a woman. Multicultural women are really great at cooking. It's natural for them. So we bring in one of the community cooks, and she showcases a dish from her culture, usually a vegan dish. And through that, she gets to demonstrate how she can cook vegetables with very minimal waste, to zero waste, actually. And during the event, they enjoy eating the dish afterwards. And we also share information on some of the zero waste subsidies that council has. And they all really get engaged, and they like to share tips and tricks, their own tips and tricks around composting, gardening, how they use their leftovers. It's really great. And one of the comments that we keep getting through those workshops is that people say, we can't believe this is run by council. We thought it's a community organization leading it. It really has really great community vibes. We've also hosted community composting for beginners workshops, and that took place in a very local urban garden in the heart of Fawkner. We've also hosted heat health workshops for women and parents of babies and young children. And we've run 2 of them in Fawkner, and one of them actually was run in Brunswick. And the tickets to the Fawkner workshops were sold out just 2 days after we promoted it, compared to the workshop that we hosted in Brunswick. And this also shows the kind of impact that the place-based engagement has on people. They know you, they trust you, they want to attend your events, they want to hear the information, compared to Brunswick, where we don't have that kind of engagement there, at least not yet. We've also run some sessions for different cohorts in Fawkner. We acknowledge that there is intersectionality that I personally like to touch on when I engage with communities around sustainability, and we will talk about that also very shortly in details. We also run monthly community information stalls or pop-ups in the heart of Fawkner, the C.B. Smith Reserve area. If you're familiar with it, it's one of the most very, very active, very rich areas in Fawkner. And just being there every month make us very familiar to people. People see us, they know who we are, they trust us. And through that kind of engagement also, you know, that usual presence and regular presence is actually contributing to building the trust and the relationship with community members. We've also hosted the Environment Day event for multicultural communities. I'm sure some of you have heard of that one. It was a 2.5-hour long event. It was quite successful, and I will talk a little bit more about it shortly. Thanks, Sally. One of the things that we also do through the outreach work is we've collaborated with community leaders. So we hosted the Inclusive and Sustainable Communities Working Group. And we just recruited for that group last year, and we had 16 members from different cultural backgrounds, and they speak a whole range of predominant community languages in Merri-bek, and that includes Arabic, Italian, Urdu, Punjabi, Hindi, Pashto, Dari. We have Nepali also, lots of predominant languages there. What the working group members do is that they connect us to their isolated or maybe harder to reach communities. And they also help us by co-designing our engagement just to ensure that we reach the isolated people, and the engagement is also done in cultural appropriate methods. So this is exactly what we wanted to do. We wanted to invest in leadership development in Fawkner to bring those community leaders to become ambassadors of sustainability in their own communities. And we actually recruited for a new term for the working group just a couple of weeks ago. And we found that we had a 52% increase in the applications, which absolutely tells us that there is a need for this. There is an appetite for this kind of engagement, which is absolutely great. Next one, Sally, please. Thank you. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the Environment Day event, and this is when we kind of targeted intersectionality from, we touched on sustainability from an intersectional lens. So that was an event to celebrate the World Environment Day. It was in June this year. And we had a lot of activities for multicultural backgrounds. So we had 11 stalls run by community organizations, and these included Climate Action Merri-bek, Doctors of the Environment, Zero Waste Victoria, Merri Food Hub. They're all local organizations that work in the space of climate and environment. Some of them even approached us to ask if they could be included in the event. So I didn't really reach to everyone. It just, they kind of really wanted to be there to engage with the community in the North. We also had a panel of community speakers. And these community speakers were not professional. They were just community members who adopted sustainability one way or another. So we had the people here in the picture. We had Zevi on the left-hand side. She's just a Fawkner resident. She's a mom of 3 beautiful boys with disabilities. And she has solar panels at her home. She has accessed the thermal subsidy. And she also has an EV. And she has electrified her home so beautifully that Zavi has an app in which she accesses controlling those appliances and electrification at her home. And she shows the app to her children, and she taught them how to use it. And she's been impressing everyone who visits her home really with that kind of upgrades. She's an amazing community member. And the beautiful thing is that Zavi is not professional. She doesn't work in the space of sustainability or environment, so people could relate to her 100%. Zavi also, through her contribution to the panel here in the Environment Day event, some other organizations took that chance and asked Zavi to contribute to other events as well. If you remember, there was a zero waste Victoria event a few weeks ago in Federation Square, if I remember, and they asked Zavi to be there as one of the panel speakers. Zavi later shared with me that she was the only speaker from amongst, I think, maybe 10 to 15 speakers during the event who spoke English as a second language. People really related to her, and it was really significant to have her as part of the panel there. We also had guest speakers who spoke about sustainability from a religious point of view or a religious perspective. So we know that religions are big for migrant communities. It's part of their everyday lives. And we just wanted to show them that sustainability is there in their religions. So we had guest speakers who spoke about sustainability from an Islamic point of view, and also from a Christian point of view, and also someone who spoke about sustainability in Hinduism. And these were chosen according to the demographics of Fawkner, and these were the most predominant religions of the community there. We also had Ridian Cowley, who is an Olympian, and he's a Fawkner resident himself. Some of you might be familiar with Ridian. He's a big advocate of climate action. And he's there at the back of the picture, if you see him. He joined us virtually from Darwin because he had a game that he was being prepared for. But he was really super keen to be involved and to share his insights also as a community member and as a sports celebrity in the space of climate action. We also had, the event was really family friendly. We had a kids corner, we had face painting, we had henna artists. We had everything that could make the whole family want to be there. And we had about maybe 200 attendees or even more. Which was absolutely great. It was like a festival, not just an event. We hope to run one also next year at the same time of World Environment Day, hopefully. Can I have the next slide, please, Sally? Thank you. And these are just some photos that were taken during the event. So the photo on the left side here, these women or girls are all from the Afghan community, one of the very hardest community to reach and to engage with, and they're second generation migrants. So their English is quite well. So language was never a barrier for them to access sustainability. However, they said they never really heard about these topics that we spoke about during the event, and the conversations that were people were engaged with. They really appreciated it, and they provided really good feedback. Next one, please. So more photos. On the left-hand side also, this is the Climate Choir Melbourne. And Nancy from the choir reached out and said, Sarah, we want to be involved in the event. We don't care to be remunerated by council. We just want to be there. We've never had the chance to engage with the community in the north before. They usually run their events from either Brunswick or Coburg. So they were really excited to be there. And they started us off really beautifully during the event. Next one, please. This is also on the left-hand side. This is the lady with the hijab, with the scarf, is Sadaf, and she's one of the Wheel Sisters program ambassadors. Many women gave us feedback that when they saw Sadaf, a Muslim woman who is wearing very specific attire was there speaking about riding bikes for the first time and learning about it and enjoying the social rides every Friday in Fawkner. Many women signed up and they wanted to join the program as well. And I'm glad to say that Sadaf also is part of our working group now. She's applied to become not just a Wheel Sisters ambassador, but sustainability ambassador, generally speaking. Next one, please. And finally, we wanted to share some of the information that we've been drawing from our surveys. We've got great responses from the surveys, and this just shows the impact. So the capacity building there has been absolutely fantastic. And not just that, but also very, very recently, we've been running some community consultations on the Climate Emergency Action Plan that Council has just endorsed last week for the next 5 years. And because of the place-based engagement specifically, we had over 28% of the responses for the survey during the consultation period that came only from Fawkner, from community members who were born overseas, so first-generation migrants, which is absolutely fantastic. Next one, please, Sally. And the most beautiful of all is that we always receive 100% positive feedback on how that community members feel connected and engaged with their local government, with their local councils through that kind of engagement that we have with them in Fawkner and in the north. Thank you so much. I think the last slide is for questions.
Thank you so much, Sarah. That was really awesome. I'm going to stop sharing now so we can just have a look at each other's faces for a little bit. And I've also spotlighted Donna, just in case people have questions about Merri-bek's overarching climate strategies. And Sarah, you just mentioned there's a new one that's been recently released. And I can see that Lily's just arrived, which is great. So I'm going to admit her and let her settle in. But just before we go to Lily, let's have a couple of questions for Sarah. So I see one hand up already. Venny, would you like to ask a question?
I would. Sarah, I am amazed by your program. I love it. And we're doing, I'm from Gen West and we're trying to do something similar in Melbourne's West. What I was wondering is when, because I've worked a lot in Merri-bek's flood affected community, and we know how important it is for community to be trusting of their local council. And I see that the wonderful work that you're doing is amazing. Do you also talk about disaster preparedness in any of your work, knowing how much it's linked to climate change?
Yes, we do touch on that. Maybe not during the outreach, because in my approach, I try to tailor the engagement according to every community group that we visit. And according to Merri-bek statistics, not many community groups are familiar with disasters, and it might not be a local issue for them. But we do touch on that during some workshops that we've hosted. So the heat health, for example, workshops. Yes, we do share information about disasters and how to prepare for disasters. We also have a lot of information like posters and flyers. Some of them are in language, and we ensure that we also have that in our engagement so that if people want to grab it and if they want to ask questions, they definitely can.
Thanks.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Okay, let's hear Debbie's question. And just in case you didn't hear me as you were arriving, Lily, welcome. We'll come to you in just a minute. Debbie, go ahead.
Thanks. Great presentation, Sarah. Can I ask about your heat health workshops? What were your key sources of information? Did you have a partnership with your local health network, or did you have other key places that you went to for the content that you're sharing with your community?
Yes, we actually collaborated with a health organization. So we had a health nurse, I remember, who delivered the workshop for moms and families or parents with babies. And we also collaborated internally with our maternal child health team at council, who also were able to provide information on who to contact in terms of facilitation and recruitment for the workshops. And we very soon also will collaborate with the Age and Well team at council to provide the same kind of sessions, but that's more tailored for the senior groups. And yeah. So we don't deliver the information ourselves. We collaborate with the health provider to provide the information to be more professional and more specific. Yeah, I hope I answered your question, Debbie.
Sushant, I might come to you afterwards if that's okay. Sarah, thank you so much. That was really inspiring, and we're going to have time for more questions with you and Lily both at the end as well. But I want to give Lily a chance now to tell us a little bit more about One Small Step. So Lily, over to you. And if you'd like to share anything, you should be able to share, but let me know if you have any trouble with that. Oh, let me just take you off mute. Oh, I can't. Can you unmute yourself, Lily? There you go. We can hear you, Lily.
I'm on now? Okay, good.
Yes.
Thanks. Sorry, it took a minute. Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me. Lovely to see such a good turnout. And great to see you in person, your face, Sarah. Okay, can everybody hear me okay? Just disappeared on the... Okay, great. All right. I'll just see if I can share my slides. Sorry, just give me a minute. Okay, here we go. So can everybody see this very busy picture?
Yes, looks good.
Yeah, okay, good. So One Small Step is a mobile app and web app I've been working on since just before the pandemic. So 2019 was when we kind of kicked off in earnest and launched our flagship mobile app in 2020. I'm the sole founder of the business. It's a profit for purpose enterprise, so a hybrid sort of social enterprise structure. And I started it because I'd worked in advocacy at GetUp, and you know, for the Greens, I'd worked in consulting for sustainable businesses, and I was just really struck by the need for systems that supported mass behaviour change. I knew that we needed demand side climate change mitigation as much as we needed supply side, and that was an area that was being, I thought, ignored at an institutional level. And there was all this amazing research on how you can support people to make a very wide array of pro-environmental changes through behavioural economics and applied psychology, cognitive science. So really sort of the pocket of behavioural science. But that hadn't really been applied in a systematic way, I thought, to environmental behaviour change to reduce carbon emissions. And so I sort of launched this, not having any technical expertise in terms of coding, and I'm really proud of where we landed. So, you know, we mapped out for people what are the barriers to changes, and we're talking holistically across waste, energy, transport, food, and purchasing decisions. So it's a pretty ambitious project. And we sort of found what you'd expect, really. You know, people were overloaded cognitively. They didn't feel like they had the time to cover it. There wasn't really a sense of clear impact. Certainly a lack of community around this stuff was a significant barrier. And that kind of contributed to that feeling of disempowerment. And so, yeah, I built a product that we launched for free in the app stores. We had over 100,000 downloads over the course of about 6 years. The emission reductions were pretty significant, over 8,000 tonnes reduced by users across a pretty wide array of changes. And that's without any carbon emission offsets. So just through behaviour change, and we had pretty thoughtful, as rigorous as we could get it, carbon footprint sort of baselining mechanism that we used, where we onboarded people, they'd baseline their footprint, their existing behaviours. Then we'd give them personalised recommendations on the changes they could make. And we had a structure for how we did that, where we broke down the changes into really small steps, and with lots of positive reinforcement and some gamification and behavioural modelling. And I think one of our most kind of clear success stories, because it was a lot easier to estimate the impact, was the Green Finance program, where we had thousands of people switching their bank and their superannuation fund. Over 6 million, I think $6.3 million shifted into banks and super funds that weren't investing in fossil fuels, just through that one digital program. So no kind of events, no phone calls, no outreach beyond just people signing up for the app and using the product. And you know, we were really well reviewed, which was nice as well, that people had a really positive experience using the product. And we've since sort of transformed all of that learning from the free product into what's called like an enterprise platform, because we wanted to make it accessible for councils, businesses, universities to use for their residents in a way that was a bit more customizable. Because obviously, you know, if you're a council and you have a specific green waste program, or, you know, solar rebates that are state supported, but it's, you know, there's an access issue through the council, that you can speak to those specific changes at a local level in a way that uses all the behavioural kind of change, the behaviour change infrastructure that we built digitally. So that's the enterprise platform, and we have a big content library, so you're not sort of starting from scratch. Again, covers a really wide array of changes. If you can think of a challenge that people could take up, it's probably already covered. So things like growing your own vegetables, participating in active transport, public transport, some aspects of climate resilience. So thinking about supporting biodiversity at a local level in terms of creating sort of bee hotels, and food waste, heaps of stuff on food waste. We actually collaborated with Oz Harvest on a lot of our food waste programs. Some stuff around purchasing decisions. So, you know, setting up local gift economies, sharing economies, toy libraries, book library, you know, sort of local book libraries. So there's a ton of content there that we've built and tested. And then the cool thing is you can customize it. So you can change it to add your own links, your own information. You can create stuff from scratch, but using our behavior change template. And then you have the benefit of also being able to track local residents' output. So, you know, they sign up through a QR code or a link that you can include in whatever communication material you want, whether that's digital or posters, and they create an account with an email. And then they can sign up to complete challenges that your council has set for the whole kind of residential cohort. They can join teams that you can set up, or they can set up depending on what you want. But you can track it. So, you know, you can set points. We have a point system that we've built, but you can see the breakdown by category. You can see activity feeds, which is we found really helpful in terms of just supporting engagement in a way that feels more automatic and is less work for anyone tasked with project managing this or tasked with community engagement in general. So, for example, if I complete an activity on sort of passive heating and cooling in my home, and I do that sort of winter heating activity, it'll show on the dashboard for the council area. Lily just did this heating activity, and I can even upload photos that go into the activity feed, so other residents can see that. There's obviously privacy settings where you can set your profile to private, so it doesn't show up if that's the resident's preference. And you can, I don't know if you can hear that. I've got a 1-year-old baby. My husband's taking care of her. I think she can hear me talking in this room. So sorry if you hear a baby crying. And so some gamification as well, activity feeds, leaderboards, the capacity for teams to compete. You go up levels as you gain points. And this can be really cool if you work with this at a street or suburb level or club level. You know, you could work with also local businesses as well as households. local community groups. So it's pretty flexible in terms of what you think might be the best design for your community. And I think this piece is really, really significant in that you can actually view other people's profiles through that activity feed or through your teams and see the challenges that they're doing, what they've already completed, the level they're on. And so that creates some positive momentum that really leverages those peer effects. And we've proven this out already through our consumer product. I don't know if you can see these numbers, but we did this off of a very small budget with a junior team. And really just the strength of the digital product that we built. We had thousands of people making these changes, and we benchmarked them at the start. So this wasn't, oh, we're already doing this and we've just ticked it off. These are changes that came from one small step from people participating in our online programs. We partnered with ANU more recently. They saw their engagement triple in the first year, and I can speak to that a little bit more if you're interested. We've worked with Sydney Council in the past, when it was a much earlier iteration of this product, through their Better Buildings Cup, where we serviced businesses and building managers and staff in buildings. We haven't done a program yet with councils with local residents. And because of that, we're sort of offering at the moment this discount, where usually this costs $15,000 to $20,000 a year as a subscription to access this tool and offer it to your sort of chosen people, your residents usually. But because it's our first time working with councils outside of Sydney City, you can get an 80% discount if 5 of you sign up together. So yeah, and I think that brings me to my time, and I don't want to go over time, but I've got plenty of other kind of pieces I can speak to in terms of how we achieved what we did. I think there's the kind of key insights that we can cover around leveraging social normative messages, making it easy, reducing cognitive load. So even if you don't end up working with one small step on this, I guess I just finished by sort of stressing the importance of demand side mitigation, of behaviour change, that councils, I think, have a really special role here that they could play to drive significantly more behaviour change and shifting social norms. And I think our tool supports that and makes that job a lot easier for councils and measurable. And if not that, just me as a resource, having worked on this for years, I think I have a decent amount of knowledge on how you can achieve that, whether you're using a digital tool or you're doing more standard sorts of outreach, like events, webinars, festivals. And I'm sad I missed Sarah's presentation, because I bet it was fantastic in terms of how she's managed some aspects of that through a really specifically place-based activity, program. All right, thanks. That's it for me, and we can move to Q&A.
That's great. Thank you so much, Lily. And don't worry, you'll have access, just like everybody else, to the recording of Sarah afterwards. So yeah, I'd like to open it up for questions now to both Lily and Sarah. How fascinating to see 2 such different approaches, but really fantastic outcomes on both sides. And you can put your questions in the chat, you can put your hand up, and if everybody's shy, I've got a billion questions myself. But I'll leave a little space. Oh yes, Sushant, sorry, I forgot you had your hand up before. Go for it.
Thanks, Sally, and thanks, Sarah, and thanks, Lily. Both great presentations. My question was for Sarah. You mentioned in the Zero Waste workshop that you worked with a local cook who wasn't a professional. Could you potentially talk about the benefits of empowering community members and I guess the decision to go with a community cook rather than a professional chef?
Yes, exactly, Sushan. So I've collaborated so far with 2 women. One of them is Alina. She's from Afghanistan originally. And the other one is Jamile, who is Lebanese. And they've never worked in the culinary space before, but they love cooking, and they really enjoy showcasing dishes from their culture. And this is the really thing that I really love about this, is they both really barely speak English, However, we were able to still communicate, and I sit down with them and prepare them for the session, prepare for the questions, and work it out a little bit with them. Even things like, invoicing counsel as vendors and things like that. I help them how to create an invoice, just being able to provide that kind of information for them was quite empowering. They felt really like they're leaders in their community, and they wanted to engage more and, take on more tasks and engagement opportunities with council, which is absolutely great.
Fantastic. Thanks, Sarah. I see Ellie's got her hand up. Ellie, go for it.
Thank you so much. Lily, I'm just curious to know how the app worked in practice in the Sydney example.
Yeah, sure. So that was a tender that we won with City of Sydney, and it was a bit of a different target audience in that it was, I think, about 90 different businesses across 10 or 12 really large-scale commercial office buildings. And so this is just pre-pandemic, and it was looking at sort of 3 tiers of participants that we were targeting simultaneously through the web platform. So that was building managers who were kind of responsible for the HVAC systems and some levels of procurement in terms of the building and how that functions from an energy standpoint particularly, and also waste, and then company procurement officers, and then individual staff. So it was really more of a corporate focus. And there was an impact evaluation report that at that point, it was more qualitative, unfortunately, than quantitative. But the results were positive in terms of the level of engagement was high, attitudes changed. People self-reported that they were making a whole series of changes through that program, but it was predominantly focused on energy and waste within the buildings and the companies themselves.
Great, thank you so much.
Thanks, Lily. Sherilyn, you're next.
Hi. I guess I have a question for both of you, but they're kind of tied together in the sense of, one, I'm wondering about the time frames on how long you would run it, how long. I know apps seem really fun at the beginning and then they kind of might die off, so I'm wondering about the time frame, but then I'm also wondering about the manpower, right? Because great to work for City, but we're in a town of, 4,000, and we don't have a single person that can do engagement. So I'm just wondering about the time input and the length of the campaigns.
I'll just jump in first because I think maybe mine is a little bit less clear. So the key thing, I guess, is you do need someone to project manage this. You do need a dedicated staff member. It's obviously not going to be a full-time thing. They can do it as part of their existing job. And the thing that One Small Step offers, and part of the reason why it's usually expensive, a $15,000, $20,000 subscription, is because we support you through that kind of sign up and onboarding approach, and then also with the content and the tracking and a lot of the comms. So, this platform's not effective if nobody's on there and nobody signs up. So it's pretty important, but we have comms packages that help. So, posters, outreach to your existing kind of stakeholder groups, getting them involved to champion it, get their members signing up, running a couple of events if you want to, and serving digital posts, digital ads as well, which you can do really cheaply depending on the platform. But I think it's really important knowing your residents and the channels that they already use to access information. So a town of 4,000 people is really, really different from an inner metropolitan kind of area of hundreds of thousands, tens of thousands of people. And in that sense, I think there is a resource component. I couldn't put it to exactly what kind of percentage FTE you would need to make this work. I think it depends on the audience, but you would want to have somebody running comms throughout the course of the period. And I would say that at least a year you would want to run it. And I'll just stop there. Sorry, I'm talking for too long.
Sarah, do you want to add anything about resourcing in your program?
Yes, resourcing, unfortunately, is very tricky. So you know how funding is always tricky when it comes to local governments. So we've been lucky that we've had some extension for 12 months for this kind of work. It started in August 2024, and we were not certain yet if we would be able to continue with this work, but we're trying to resource it, whether internally or externally. So yeah, it's always a tricky thing, but fingers crossed for that.
Thanks, Sarah. Sherilyn, did that answer all your questions or did you have more?
No, just real quickly. So is the FTE for your program really your full-time job? Is that it?
Sorry, I don't fully understand the question.
I think that one was for Sarah, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, it was a follow-up. No worries. It was a follow-up to Sarah. Just one last.
Yeah, sure.
So, are you full-time for the council working on this program?
I was for the first year, so for the pilot, the 12-month pilot, I was until August, just last August. The work started to become part-time, so I'm working 4 days a week. Yeah, and I've got an extension until June 2026. So hopefully we'll extend beyond that, but at this stage, we're not sure yet.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Sarah. Julie, go for it.
Thanks. Yeah, question for Sarah. I know, well, just interested in, and sorry if you said this, but where the impetus for the work came from. Like, did it sort of flow out from the climate work, or did it come from the community development area within council? I know all councils are structured differently, and yeah, just interested in that. And when you're talking about the funding for your project, I'm sort of interested in what area that's coming out of too, or is it more a cross-council collaboration in terms of funding and work?
I might throw this question at you, Donna. Sorry to put you on the spot, but I think she would be best to answer this question.
Okay.
Yeah, no, thanks, Sarah.
Thank you.
Just for a bit of background. So it was part of our climate emergency action plan at Merri-bek. It was about, reaching our audiences. And we sort of really knew that we're a city of two halves, like a very gentrified, south, and also then quite a multiculturally diverse north, which actually were more impacted by climate with heat waves. We're looking at our heat mapping and other things as well. So we really wanted to do some work in the north. We tried a couple of different methods. We just try and running events ourselves. We also looked, but it was one of those, we've got an event on, we just put out social media posts and expecting hundreds of people to turn up, and it didn't work. We also engaged a not-for-profit to do some of this work, but they weren't actually local enough. And then, so we sort of went back and did more thinking. We did some research that Sarah was mentioning, and what was the best practice approach to do this long-term change? And that's when we developed up this community outreach project. For a number of things, one, to try and get the relationships in-house and also the knowledge in-house as well, rather than just outsourcing it, to make sure we get that longer-term change. So from that in-house work, we were able to get approved. So it came out of our existing budget in our sustainability committees team to do this project. But we have been working really closely with a lot of teams. Sarah is actually in demand across nearly every other team now within across council, because they're just seeing the success of this program and how amazing job that she has done with it. So we work closely with other teams, but we're probably the only ones that's really got someone working full-time doing this more in-depth community outreach work. And we just know that it works. So, yeah, we're really happy with it.
Okay. Thanks, Donna. That's great.
Excellent. I can see Vinny's put something in the chat, which I'll come back to in a moment. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go through a little bit of wrap up just to make sure everybody knows how to connect with us and so on afterwards. But I'm also going to ask Lily and Sarah, if you've got a little bit of time afterwards, I might just go into a little bit of question overtime if people want to stay, because I'm pretty sure we've got some more questions. Either or both of you able to stay for a little bit longer? Yeah, wonderful. Okay, great. So let me just quickly share just a few bits and bobs before some people may have to leave. So I wanted to Just make everybody aware, just in case you're not already, that you can join CEA's Basecamp. This is a great place for sharing and accessing resources amongst council officers. So if you're not on there, you can either get on there by contacting me directly or by going to our website. Those are all our contacts there. And of course, I'll send this out. Assuming that's okay with you, Lily and Sarah, I'll include your presentations as well. So I'll send this out afterwards. And I wanted to mention as well that we've got some really good webinars coming up before the end of the year. The next one's going to be a spotlight on Noosa. And Noosa's got some really interesting and innovative partnerships going on that I think you'll be really interested to hear about. And we've got one more coming up, the last one for the year in November. We talk today and we talk often about how hard it is to get resourcing into local government. Without wanting to advertise a silver bullet, I strongly recommend that you come to this webinar because we're going to highlight two really interesting, innovative, alternative ways of getting funding in. So we're going to be highlighting a very place-based community partnership model through the Greater Bendigo Climate Collaboration, but also Auckland's Green Bonds program, which has brought in billions of dollars of private investment. So look out for those. You can register at our upcoming webinars page. And we've got a couple of climate cafes before the end of the year as well. So if you're not aware of those, that's where you can share and hear climate feelings. Basically, we all work in council. Sometimes that's a lonely position to be in, especially if you're the only one. But even if you're not the only one, sometimes you don't have time within your team to share this kind of stuff. So if that's something that interests you, please go ahead and register at our cafes page. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing again. And just open it up for some overtime questions if anybody's got any remaining questions. I've got a few burning questions myself, which I really want to ask. One is for both of you, really. You know, these are two really interesting and different approaches, and I'm wondering whether the both of you are kind of already making some connections and thinking how would these two approaches complement each other? How might a council kind of deploy both of these kind of things at the same time in support of each other? I wonder if either of you have anything to comment about that.
Sarah, did you want to go first? I feel like I went first last.
No, it's okay. You can go, Lily. It's fine.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think that any live events where you have people coming in person, doing any forms of workshop learning, that they're really good for deep engagement. They can be quite transformative. And I think that a tool like One Small Step, it can fill the gaps or create, rather than just these kind of points of engagement, it can create more of a line where you're helping to kind of build engagement, not just between the council and the local resident, but also across local residents. I mean, that's one of the benefits of a digital approach. So it partly can support like a what next, what now kind of question at the end of those types of events, and it supports greater measurability of the actions that people are taking. But I think both are really excellent. Again, it just comes down to a question of resourcing. And I think if you're in a smaller community, then hyper place-based kind of focus, hyper localized is going to work great. And a digital tool, it depends on your audience and your demographics. If there's younger people, then that's a good sign. It might be an effective channel as part of a suite of communication tools.
I 100% agree with what Lily says, and sorry, I always bring community's perspective into this kind of ideas, and I think having the two approaches being worked out at local government, I think it means a collective sort of action. So you're engaging, through different approaches here, and this means a collective action, which is what we actually need to make real change. This is just as simple as it is for me.
Great, thanks both for that. Another question in the chat for Lily from Cara. Has the app ever been used by a school community? Have you got any examples like that?
Sorry, I just answered in the chat. The answer is short.
Sorry.
It's no, not yet. But I would love to work with schools. It's just been more of an access thing and figuring out the right sort of groups to go through. Obviously, schools are fantastic because you get the kids really engaged, and that engages the parents. And there's other programs that I've seen run. So the ACT Act Smart did a really cool program in schools that had a pretty transformative effect. So the model's been proven out elsewhere that it is a really effective way to run things. And I would love to work with schools. It's just more of a question of which schools and who's interested. And if you have any connections, please send them my way.
Good one, thanks, Lily. Another question from me, since I don't see any other questions at the moment. Sarah, you talked about diversity within diversity within diversity on the Switched On podcast, which was a really great interview. And you talked a lot about intersectionality today. I'm curious, are there any particular strengths or barriers in different communities or communities within communities that you wish councils knew about so they could tailor their programs better or make use of those strengths or barriers better?
Yes, absolutely, 100%, Sally. So, yes, there is diversity within diversity within diversity. I can go on forever with that. It's very, very tricky because usually at council, like for example, at Merri-bek, we usually refer at multicultural communities as if it's one big category, and you need to address barriers that this kind of cohorts experience. But I can assure you, through the engagement we've done, it's very different. One community is different from another. There's even diversity and differences within one community. Maybe I'll give you a quick example of the community that I belong to. So I'm Middle Eastern. I speak Arabic as a first language, and we usually refer to the Arabic speaking community as if it's one community. But this is extremely it's just not right, because there are about maybe 22 Middle Eastern countries, and we all speak Arabic, but we come from different backgrounds, we come from different cultures, different traditions, different culture and habits. So we're not really the same. And specifically, if you're engaging with the Lebanese community, for example, it's one of the most prevailing Arabic-speaking communities, let's say. So with the Lebanese community, second generation, for example, they speak English as a first language and Arabic is their second language. So you can't really refer to this community being Arabic-speaking. It's very different. It's very diverse. In the Indian community, for example, you have community members who are from the Sikh community, from the Muslim community, from Christian community, from Hindu community. Understanding the differences makes you really tailor your approach according to each different needs, different interests. And it goes on with the same, with every community almost. Even age groups, they're different. The way I tailor my approach engaging with Italian seniors, for example, is very different when I'm working with Muslim women or young moms, for example, from Muslim background. Their interests are different, their needs are different, their responsiveness is different also, and you need to ensure that you just tailor your approach according to what they want, what they're interested in. You don't want to waste their time, and you don't want to waste yours either. So you need to understand, run a lot of consultations to understand those diversities before you plan your strategic engagement with them.
Yep, great
Thanks,
point.
Lynn.
Thank you, Sarah. I wanted to ask one more question of Lily. Lily, you mentioned in the app there's sort of like a team functionality, and you mentioned this can be really good in sort of streets, suburbs, that kind of thing. And I wanted to ask, have you got any good examples of how the app has been used in that way to kind of promote collective action, like Sarah was talking about, as opposed to, sort of going beyond individual actions?
So at ANU, they have the Australian National University, they have teams at sort of slightly lower than the faculty level So sort of the engineering team for the School of Engineering, and then a whole series of other teams based on the sort of school level, so within faculties, and then people sort of you can have team admins that either create the team or are nominated by the university's staff that are managing the platform. They can invite people into the team, or you can request to join. The team admins can set challenges. So from the sort of list that ANU's got of all of the different changes that people can make, and you can filter as well by, are you professional staff, or are you academic staff, or are you a student, are you undergrad, postgrad, living residentially on campus? So these things you can kind of filter by or search. So yeah, you can set challenges for the team. They can complete them together. So it kind of, again, creates a little bit more of a time-based, focused, and a narrower peer group. So those peer effects are even more strong when the people that you already know and are working with. So yeah, I've seen that work that way. And then in the consumer app that we had that was free, we also had a community feed, and people would set up family groups. So across families, and sort of a similar structure in terms of being able to do challenges and have an internal sort of team leaderboard and seeing each other's profiles and what each person was doing. So with social normative messaging, which is sort of just leveraging a keeping up with the Joneses effect and a little bit of kind of natural human curiosity of, well, what's this person doing? It's a great way to get people engaged. And there's a behavioral modeling component, and it can be very visual. So being able to see, she's just grown her first little herb garden from kitchen scraps, and I can see the pictures. That's really powerful compared to just seeing a line of text on the screen. So the fact that there's photo uploading, that you can do that within Teams or across the whole area through the big dashboard I think is quite a positive kind of component. Yeah. Sorry, one last thing I just wanted to say is that there's also a built-in email notifications that we've spent ages working on to make sure that they're not spammy and that they're giving people value when they come in. And so you have kind of automated notifications coming in saying, hey, there's been a bunch of activity in your team, there's many points has been gained or a new challenge has been set. So Teams are also great for creating those kind of built-in prompts where, again, it's less work for the person who's project managing this, because you have that sort of activity level notifications coming in to bring people back into engaging.
Yeah, cool. Great, thanks, Lily. Okay, well, I think I should let the two of you go now. Thank you so much for your presentations. That was really, really great. And as I said, I'm looking forward to sharing all of that with everybody. So Lily, if you're able to send me your slides, I'll definitely include those. And Lily, for those councils who are curious about the offer that you mentioned, shall they contact me and I can sort of coordinate that, or would you like them to contact you directly, or either or?
I think, Sally, I'd love for you to coordinate it if you're okay to do that.
Sure, sure.
That would be wonderful.
Yeah,
just because
okay.
then you know the councils really well, and I think then if there's a series of questions like there were last time around risk management, IT security, which we've done a lot of due diligence on this because we had to work with massive companies like Ernst & Young and ANU. But yeah, I can speak to those in a group rather than one-on-one. So
sure, great. Okay, so yeah, contact me if you're interested in that, and I'll certainly put that out on our Basecamp as well. All right, so thank you so much, Lily and Sarah and Donna, and thanks everybody for being here today, and I look forward to seeing you at the next one.